Hi everyone, I'm Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Welcome to week 21 of our Sewing Organization Challenge. So this series is coming to an end. We have 4 more weeks. I can't believe it. It's happened so fast. This whole series is all about getting the best space we can, especially since most of us, or at least me and a lot of people I know, sew a lot during the late summer months and into the fall and even into winter. This week is what I missed week, so it's kind of a catch-all. As I was going through my notes, I noticed that I missed 3 different topics. One of them is thread, which you can see my thread rack back here, also bobbins and batting. So let's first talk about what I do for thread. So thread used to be a real issue for me maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. I had so much, and you know, when people find out that you sew, a lot of times they'll give you boxes of thread that was their grandmother's or their mother's or whomever, and some of it's just not good quality. As a new sewist, I didn't know what to keep and what not to keep, so I tended to keep it all. So about 5 years ago I went through it, and I wish I had video to show you me going through it, and I actually threw out a lot of it, especially the stuff that I could break when I pulled on it. So if I could break it with my hands, I knew it wasn't any good anymore. If it were still good and I knew I wouldn't use it, I donated it and basically pared down my collection to what I knew I would use. Then I bought these wonderful thread cases at Joann Fabrics. I know they still sell them, and that for the most part is how I stored my thread. Anything that wouldn't fit in there, I just put it into a shoebox type container, and it stayed really well organized. However, I could never get my hands on the color I wanted, so this thread rack really came in handy for me. Now, just a couple things about this thread rack. It is custom built. I wish I could tell you that you could buy it somewhere, but there are wonderful resources out there for thread racks. There's a lot that you can purchase on Etsy. You can even get plans on Etsy. You can even buy the actual racks, and any will do that will just keep it organized and together. So to keep my threads from unraveling, I just use these ponytail holders, and I buy them in bulk on Amazon. And I actually use them for everything. I even tie up my tomato plants. I've used them to hold open the door of the kennel that we use for Daisy, our pup. I've used them everywhere in my house. I use them to tame cords, everything. I absolutely love them, and they work great for threads. I try to match the color. It doesn't always work out because you get like an assortment. So, but this works really wonderful for threads, and it keeps the tails of the threads contained really well. So I have a jar of these that I keep on hand, and I use them for basically everything. And then I just set them up here on my rack. You can see on my rack I have them organized by color. I like the look of that. If you've been following me for a long time, you know that. But I also put the colors that I wouldn't necessarily use that much at the top, and the colors I always use at the bottom. So I tend to use a lot of gray as a neutral, and also like a whole quilt in the gray. I'll piece it together in gray thread, so I keep it really handy. And then other colors like just in rainbow order. So for this particular rack, I do have to have a step stool nearby so I can get up to get some of the higher threads, but I like it. I don't mind it at all. Now for you, if you haven't organized your thread, it's absolutely worth it going through it and seeing what you can get rid of, what you want to keep, and just start building that collection of really good thread. It makes a world of difference in your quilting and in your sewing if you buy high-end thread. Believe it or not, it really does. I love Aurifil. Again, if you've been watching me, you know that. I know they're a little pricey, but you get more on a spool, so make sure that you're looking at that too. And they produce a lot less lint, so it's better for your machine. And Aurifil threads, you can tell such a difference in your sewing. There's no skip stitches. It's the best. So, you know, when you're looking at thread and buying thread, make sure that you buy the highest quality you can afford. So let's talk about bobbins. Okay, so I also don't have a problem really organizing bobbins. A few years ago, I saw a speaker. I think it was at either Quilt Guild or a quilt show. I can't remember which, but the speaker was talking about using tubing for wrapping your bobbins. And this particular stuff I bought at, I think, Lowe's, and it's called clear vinyl tubing. I'll put a picture on the screen. The inside diameter is 3/8 of an inch and the outside is 1/2. And all you do is cut a piece off that's the width of your bobbin, and then cut a slit in it and wrap it around your bobbin. It works great. Not only that, if you don't know, like say the brand of thread that you have on here on your bobbin, you can even use a Sharpie and write on the outside of this. So this is how I keep my bobbins intact so they don't move all over the place. I also keep 2 containers, one with bobbins that I don't use that much, like reds, purples, pinks, some variety of colors like that, and the other with my neutrals. And at the beginning of the month, just like I do when I clean my machine and replace the needle and do all that maintenance, I fill bobbins with my neutral threads. And this just makes my life easier. It's so worth it to have extra bobbins for your machine that you can do this with, because then you're not stopping in a mid-project to wind a bobbin. So I like to do like 10 of gray and like, I don't know, 5 of the beige, and that way I have it and it usually lasts me all month. So finally we get to batting, and to be honest, I really struggle with this. I have 3 different areas where I have my batting, and I have so many different kinds. For example, I bought this, I don't know, it must have been on sale. I bought like 6 yards. Why would I have bought 6 yards? But I bought 6 yards of this thermal batting. I don't even know what I was thinking. So I'm not sure exactly how to contain it or to control it. So I decided this week that I was going to tackle it, mostly for this video, and pull it all together. So what I did was I dumped all the batting onto the floor like I've done before with scrap fabrics, and I started sorting it. And I really was kind of hard on myself about getting rid of the things I knew I would never use. So if I had small pieces, I put them in my container to make pet beds. I cut them up so I could do so, and I organized them as best as I could. But let's face it, batting is bulky and it is a pain in the neck to store. Also, there's so many different kinds. So it's hard to say how you're going to organize this the best way. But for me, I'm just going to stack them in this cabinet and use them up. And then when I need batting, I'm going to buy on a need basis. So if I need a king size batting, I'm going to buy the king size batting and discard the extras, or cut it at least into manageable pieces that I know I'll use. Now, let's talk for a minute about piecing, binding together. And I know a lot of people do that, and I know there's a lot of videos out there on how to do that. I've never tried it. To me, I don't know if it's really even worth my time to take the time to do that. Maybe it is. Let me know in the comments if that's something you do. But I tried, as I sorted through, to get rid of the smaller pieces and to just have batting I know I'll use. So for your tasks this week, the first one is to go through your thread and to get rid of the thread that you know you're not going to use, or that's so old that it's just not going to work for you, because it's not worth using old thread and having it break and having all the issues, the skip stitches and all that stuff that goes with old thread. Organize it the best you can and try to wrap it in something so those threads just don't get all over, because sometimes they just have a mind of their own and then you end up with a big knot of thread in your box that you're keeping them in, which is not fun. Next, tame those bobbins. Think about getting some of this tubing. I don't know, I bought this like 3 years ago and I still have a ton left. It comes in 10 feet lengths. There's no way I'm ever gonna, this is gonna be like a lifetime supply of tubing probably. So pick some of this up. It works great. I love it. It's a great tip and a great way to organize your bobbins. Next, wind some extra bobbins. You will thank me later. I know it's a pain in the neck. I know it's no fun, but please consider just winding a bunch of bobbins, knowing that you're going to be using them, and you're going to be thanking me every time you pull out a bobbin when you run out, I promise. And finally, your batting. I wish I could tell you the best way to organize it. It's so bulky. It's such a pain in the neck. Do the best you can, fold it up, wrap it up, put it in a bag, put it in a bin somehow, and then maybe even just use the batting that you have. I know I have a bunch of quilt tops that could use some batting, and I could finish some of those projects too. I wish I had a fun task for you. I really don't. This is kind of like a catch-all week. I would say, you know, if there's anything that I missed that's specific to you, say that you make dolls or something like that, I'm sure have materials that I didn't talk about that would be specific for you. Go back and organize that. I don't know, try some high quality thread. Maybe that's your fun task. Try some high quality thread and see what I'm talking about. The difference is amazing and it's definitely worth the cost. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope there wasn't too much background noise. We're having a whole bunch of construction done. So I'm trying to get these videos in because, you know, the show must go on. Please, if you haven't done so, consider subscribing and I'll see you soon. And make sure you take some time to sew. Bye.